Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Monday Motivation, the weekly Monday Motivation podcast. No more excuses. I am your host, Sandy Ballard. And as I've recently been told, or it was suggested, I am not just the badass business coach, I am the super badass business coach. So there it is. That's me. And thank you for listening to me. And this is week 231, and it's really crazy. And I always get excited when I start thinking about recording this and what am I going to say. And, because I tend to like to share things that have happened to me or clients and clients, and obviously to hopefully help you, right? And what was interesting is a few weeks ago, I'm not sure why I waited, but where I host my podcast, it's Libsyn, Libsyn. Yeah, I think so. Where you can upgrade to see different stats, right? Because for years I've asked you, hey, connect with me on social media. Where are you? Tell me where you're listening. And I've gotten people, from Ireland. I think it's Steve. There's a woman from Ghana, and I apologize, I can't remember her name. And outside of the U.S., tons of you guys in the U.S. and in the U.K. But what was interesting is I upgraded and I started down this rabbit hole and found out that I have one listener in Fiji, one listener in Czechoslovakia, and 8,512 in the U.S. But then, like I said, there's some in Ghana. 18, not just the one, and 370 in the UK. And it was cool as hell. So, first off, I still want to know who you are, right? So, connect with me on social media. And thank you again for listening. And yes, as I was starting to look at all those stats, I was like going down a rabbit hole. It's all relevant information, but I was losing track of time and I was geeking out and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And I had to pull myself out of that rabbit hole. And like in last week's podcast, I talked about just one. It only takes one thing to knock you off track. One comment, text, phone call, even an idea. And, you know, like I was trying to suggest, it really only takes you one of the same to get you back in line, right? So a few weeks ago, when I had that one idea to upgrade so I could research stats, I started getting super excited, going down that rabbit hole, and got off track. Luckily, I stopped myself and put a note on the calendar to research the stats at a later date. That was a lifesaver. I mean, okay, time saver, right? Because I needed to get other things done. I had started down that rabbit hole. And if I hadn't stopped myself, I could have easily spent hours and just, not wasting it, but, I started getting excited and geeked out and I started just skimming over things. And, I'm so glad I stopped myself and scheduled that for later because it ended up being a lot more detailed and I appreciated it more. But how did I stop myself? Well, I practice what I preach. I recognized what was happening and that I wasn't on track because I looked down and there is I have what I call a 1, 2, 3 list. It's on a post-it note that is on top of my to-do list. And I have a running to-do list, a small to-do list, all that stuff, right? I could have easily ignored that, but I looked down and I saw that and I was like, oh shit, I'm going down a rabbit hole. Okay, as much as I'm excited about this, I need to stop right now and get back on track. That 1, 2, 3 list helps me stay focused and be efficient and productive. And that day, whew, it did. And don't worry, I have clients who hate to-do lists. They get no satisfaction from checking off boxes or putting a line through an item, right? And if you're like that, you're not alone. That's okay. And one client in particular, we were talking and she had texted before her session and was saying she was behind on emails, she was flitting about, not really staying focused. So during our session, we talked about a lot of things and I shared with her how my 1, 2, 3 list had helped me. And she was like, oh, I can't do that. I hate to-do lists. I'll put them down. I'll lose them. They'll get buried. I've tried journals. I've tried reminders on calendars. And I just ignore them. So as we were talking, I suggested, hey, how about you just write all your ideas onto a whiteboard? She has a whiteboard in her office. She's like, okay, I can do that. And as we started talking about why, because some people have to understand the why, she started getting excited about it. And so I said, here you are. You have to get all your ideas out of your head, put them on a whiteboard, because that list in your head that I refer to as the oh shit list looks a lot different. Okay? It's going to free up your mind to be creative, because the project she's working on that she was not working on is a creative writing project. So her mind was so full of the shit she needed to do, she didn't have the brain space to think and be creative. So she started imagining what that would be like, and she was like, oh God, that feels so much better. And then she goes, I can use more different colored markers and leave a little space for the new ideas. I'm like, perfect. So boom, a to-do list that's done her way. And guys that are out there listening, it's not just a girl thing. Get your ideas and strategies out of your head. I was working with one of my male clients years ago, and he said that exact thing. Man, that looks a lot different out of my head on that whiteboard and on paper than it did in my head. And yes, it does. So you should try that sometime. And that little story about me, just that one idea that I was getting so geeked out and getting me off track, my to-do list, that one thing, specifically the 1, 2, 3, got me back on track. And when I said I'd scheduled it for a later time, it was actually 2 days ago, Saturday, the 29th of August. I sat down, and that's probably why I'm talking about it now. I sat down, and that's when I had scheduled it, so I could look at the stats. So I started digging in and being more intentional, because I didn't have anything over there to the side, or emails flashing at me or phones, anything. I had scheduled time to do that. I was able to dig in versus just getting excited and going down a rabbit hole and flitting about, right? I was able to dig in and see that not just 18 people in Ghana are listening, and hopefully you are today. It's just that I got able to dig in and see that they're all in the greater Accra area, and I apologize if I screw that up, and please message me, sballard@growingforward.biz. Send me information on how to pronounce that. I should have looked into that. But that was so cool. And I got to see that in the U.S., California is the highest state, then Texas, Florida, Virginia, and Ohio. None of those are the state I grew up in since 1976, Indiana. Indiana was one of the lower on the list of amount of people who listen to my podcast. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you're all just my friends and don't care. But I thought that was interesting. So again, that power of one. So that one idea a few weeks ago got me off track, down a rabbit hole. The one to-do list, the 1, 2, 3 list, got me back out of that hole and on track, right? And then scheduling that out, blocking that time and saying, this was my number one, right? How I was able to be more intentional. I was able to dig in deeper and get excited about it again. So hopefully you can hear my excitement in my voice. So, it's just one, like last week in the podcast, I talked about just that one thing, but how do you use that to manage what you want to get done, what you want to accomplish? And, yes, it's mindset and habits, and that life is a team sport. But for right now, I want you to think about, maybe something that's on your list or something that popped up and you started going down that rabbit hole. How can you get yourself out of that rabbit hole? Or when that happens and you're in that rabbit hole, I don't know, recognize it. You need something. Oh, there was a movie called I can't remember now what it was called, but it was about architects, and they went into dreams, and they always had this little toy, a spinner or something that would trigger them that they're down a rabbit hole, right? That they knew whether it was reality or not. And so you have to have that one thing that can help you get out of the rabbit hole. And then, like when I rescheduled it to dig in, how much more intent I was, how I was able to dig in and get more out of it versus just, oh, great, I upgraded. Oh, there's, 8,000 people in the United States and 370 in the UK. All right. But what does that look like and what does that mean? So this week, again, I want you to think about what you can do to be your trigger to help you when you go down that rabbit hole. And if you don't have anything and need some ideas, again, message me, sballard@growingforward.biz. Find me on social media, direct message me, and we'll talk through that. All right, because again, I would have probably not known all these stats, and I would have probably not been so excited about this and not realized that that simple little post-it note saved my ass that day. All right. Have a great week. I look forward to hearing from you, and I want to hear what are your triggers that help you, or what can we figure out to help you stay on task, focused, motivated to achieve your goals. All right. Have a great week. Cheers.